Tulip Mania, when flowers cost more than houses, the story of history's first speculative bubble. What we'll uncover. Zo 1, the frenzy, how it began. Zo 2, the numbers that shocked Europe. 3, the collapse, when the music stopped. 4, the great debate, bubble or mania. 5, echoes in today's markets. Picture this. It's the 1630s in the Dutch Republic. You're walking through Amsterdam, the wealthiest city on earth, and what's everyone talking about? Not gold, not spices, not ships. Flowers, tulip bulbs to be precise. And they're trading for more than houses. Sounds crazy, right? Well, buckle up, because that's exactly what happened. This is the story of Tulip Mania, and I promise you, it gets wilder from here. So what exactly was Tulip Mania? In the simplest terms, it was the first speculative bubble we have on record. During the 1630s, in what's now the Netherlands, the prices of certain tulip bulbs went absolutely through the roof. We're talking about contracts for bulbs, not even the bulbs themselves, trading at prices that would make your jaw drop. The frenzy really took off around 1634, and then almost as quickly as it started, everything came crashing down in February of 1637. The fascinating thing? While it's legendary as a financial cautionary tale, it didn't actually wreck the Dutch economy. It was more of a strange, almost theatrical moment in economic history. Now, you can't understand the tulip craze without understanding the world it grew in. The Dutch Republic in the 1600s was basically the Silicon Valley of its day, the richest, most innovative place on the planet. They had the highest incomes per person. Amsterdam was the hub of global trade, and there was this new merchant class with money to spend and a hunger to show it off. And what do you buy when you're rich and want everyone to know it? Something rare, something beautiful, something nobody else has. Enter the tulip. It wasn't just a flower. It was the 17th century equivalent of a Lamborghini. Here's where things get really interesting. The most expensive tulips weren't your garden variety solid colors. They were broken tulips, flowers with these incredible flame-like streaks and patterns, almost like living works of art. The queen of them all was the Semper Augustus, a red and white stunner so rare that fewer than a dozen bulbs were known to exist. Here's the wild part. Those beautiful patterns? They were caused by a plant virus. Nobody knew that at the time, of course. The virus made the flowers unpredictable, impossible to mass produce, and therefore insanely valuable. It was like a natural lottery ticket, and everyone wanted to win. Let's walk through the timeline because the speed of this thing is breathtaking. In 1634, tulips are a rich person's hobby. By late 1636, the fever has spread. Even ordinary bulbs are climbing. Then comes the winter of 1636 to 1637. Absolute madness. Bulbs are changing hands 10 times a day in taverns, people are leveraging everything they own, and prices are going vertical. Then, in early February, an auction is scheduled in Haarlem, and nobody shows up. Just like that, the spell is broken. Within weeks, the whole thing unravels, and on February 23rd, the traders gather in Amsterdam trying to figure out who owes what to whom. 4 years of buildup, undone in a matter of days. Let those numbers sink in for a moment. A single tulip bulb could cost 6 times what the average person earned in an entire year. In just 1 month, prices shot up over 1,000%. The most expensive bulb ever sold, the Admiraal van Enchoysen, went for 5,200 florins, and contracts for these bulbs were flipping as many as 10 times in a single day, often in taverns over drinks. If that sounds unhinged to you, you're right. It was. And yet, at the time, everyone thought they were being perfectly rational. This chart really puts things in perspective. Look at that gap. A skilled craftsman earned about 300 florins a year. A fine townhouse in Amsterdam, a whole house, might set you back around 1,000 florins. You could buy an entire brewery, fully equipped, for about 2,500. And yet a single Viceroy tulip bulb went for over 4,200 florins, and the Admiraal van Enchoysen hit 5,200. Let me repeat, 1 flower bulb, not a sack of bulbs. 1. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around, but that's what Tulip Mania did to rational pricing. Now we get to the moment everything changed. Picture the scene. It's early February 1637. The tulip trade has been white hot for months. Buyers and sellers are packed into taverns across Harlem, contracts flying back and forth. An auction is called. This is where fortunes will be made, except nobody comes. The buyers simply don't show up. And in that single moment of silence, the greatest speculative bubble the world had ever seen begins to deflate. What happened next was chaos. The Harlem auction failure was the domino that set everything off. Think about the psychology here. For years, the assumption was that tulip bulbs would always go up. Then one day, a room full of sellers and not a single buyer. The silence was deafening. Panic spread through the Netherlands like wildfire. People who had paper fortunes worth thousands of florins suddenly realized they couldn't sell. Buyers who'd committed to enormous prices started backing out. The florist community tried to salvage things by proposing that any contract made after November 1636 could be cancelled with a 10% penalty, but by then the damage was done. Trust, the invisible glue of any market, had evaporated. Now here's where it gets nuanced, and honestly, more interesting. For centuries, Tulip Mania has been taught as the ultimate bubble story. Irrational crowds, prices untethered from reality, financial ruin. And there's truth to that. But in recent decades, economic historians have started pushing back. They point out that the tulip trade was actually a pretty niche affair. Most Dutch people weren't involved at all. The participants were largely wealthy merchants who could handle the losses. The Dutch economy, one of the strongest in the world, barely blinked. So was it a devastating bubble, or more of an eccentric social episode that we've mythologized over time? The answer, as usual, is probably somewhere in the middle. The debate itself is a great reminder that financial history is rarely as simple as the stories we tell about it. And here's why this 400-year-old story still matters. Look at that image. Doesn't it feel eerily familiar? From the dot-com crash of 2000 to the housing bubble of 2008 to the crypto and NFT craze of the 2020s, the same patterns keep appearing. Something scarce or novel captures the imagination. Stories spread faster than facts. Prices rise, and the very fact that they're rising convinces more people to jump in. FOMO takes over. And then eventually someone looks around the room and realizes nobody's actually buying anymore. Tulip Mania wasn't an anomaly. It was the template. Every bubble since has been a remix. So what do we take away from all of this? I think there are 3 simple but powerful lessons. First, when someone tells you this time it's different, it probably isn't. Second, prices that are completely untethered from underlying value are, by definition, fragile. They can break at any moment. And third, maybe the most human one, we are storytelling creatures. We convince ourselves of narratives. Tulips are the ultimate status symbol. Housing always goes up. This crypto project is the future. And then we act as if those stories are facts. The tulip doesn't judge us for this. It just blooms year after year, a beautiful reminder that some things are valuable simply because they're beautiful, not because we can flip them for a profit. And maybe that's the real lesson.